Now tonight, following the recent revelation that former NPP Kingpin and Forestry Commission boss, whose last testament has generated massive brouhaha in the media, appears to have not declared his assets and liabilities as required by law, reprobe Ghana's asset declaration regime. That particular regime has been deemed to be one of the most effective compliance mechanisms adopted by nations to prevent or cure the incidence of conflict of interest among public office holders. It has also acquired a renewed international focus since the passage of that UN Convention Against Corruption. In fact, when this was adopted in 2003, virtually every state was asked to adopt legislation for public officials to declare their assets. It is this particular law that incents Ghana and other countries to move in that direction. Here in Ghana, the first time asset declaration was included in our constitution dates back to that 1969 constitution. Now, two main laws have in the Fourth Republic regulated asset declaration. Article 2861 of the 1992 constitution and Public Office Holders of Assets and Disqualification Act 1998 Act 550. But how well has this regime served this country? How have these laws prevented corruption and dealt with the things that we need to deal with? Well, my guest today on Upfront is an anti-corruption campaigner extraordinaire. Until recently, he was the Auditor General of the Republic of Ghana, who has had cause to call this regime of declaration of assets a complete joke. Daniel Domelevo. You're welcome, sir. I hope you are doing well.
I'm fine. What about you?
I am doing very, very well. It's been almost, is it 2 or 3 years since we last had a conversation? It was a bit combative. You were insisting that you bring the biggest change to the Republic of Ghana. I mean, from where you say it, do you miss this country?
A lot. Home is home. I miss the country, and I have always wished that we have gone further than where we are. But, well, there's too little I can do about that.
You couldn't change Ghana, could you?
Yes, of course. That's what I mean. That I think Ghana has all that it requires to change, but we have just remained with our potentials. We don't harness the potentials. We remain with the potentials, and that's all. We always have potential, but I don't think potential is good enough. We must harness it to make progress.
Is it too late to change Ghana? Well, I guess I have a slight difficulty with him via Zoom. Of course, he is not here in the Republic of Ghana. And if you just joined us, I'm speaking on Upfront tonight to that Auditor General. That Auditor General that brought a lot of hope to many people. And the crux of our conversation tonight is the asset declaration regime that we have put in place in this country. So the expectations are pretty soon Daniel Domelevo will be reconnected for this conversation to continue. I'll sure should be able to bring you up to speed with that development, but what is prompting this conversation? I'm sure you've heard that in the Republic of Ghana, we've had calls in the Constitution in Article 2861 to put in some regulation on the declaration of assets. In fact, there is also another law, the Public Office Holders of Assets and Declaration Act 1998. That's Act 8, Act 550. That actually stipulates that asset declaration and its guidance should be done according to law. In fact, senior public officers ought to comply with this particular law. That's the conversation we are having, because the asset declaration ought to be lodged with the Auditor General. He has been in that office before. He understands that particular law and why we are where we are today. You're welcome back, sir. I seem to have lost you briefly there. I was asking you about the very wonderful things you and I used to talk about in the Republic of Ghana when you were actively in office. Now, you were talking about change and whether or not it is too late to make massive change, especially in the fight against corruption in Ghana.
No, it's never too late to make changes. It's better late than never. So it's never too late. We can always make changes.
But there are many who are saying we do not have enough of the people with your zeal and competence to do this change-making job. Do you agree with them?
I have not done any research, and I don't know the basis for for this
for the claim.
I cannot
Are there
agree or
corruption
agree.
fighters in Ghana today that can deliver at your speed and competence?
I think so, because until I came on the scene, you didn't know I existed.
I
So
had
there
doubts
may be
about you
others,
anyway.
that there may be several others who have yet to be discovered. So let's hope that they will come to the fore very soon.
I'll come back to these issues, but I want us to zoom straight into our conversation. In fact, for those who do not know about what all of these assets and liabilities declaration regime is really about, what does it mean to our public finance management system?
Thank you very much. First and foremost, you mentioned a sentence or a phrase, public financial management system. It is the laws, the rules, the regulations that are put in place in a country to ensure that public funds are collected properly and used for the intended purposes, and ensuring there is value for money and due procedures are followed. That is why, if you look at Chapter 13 of the Constitution of Ghana, it provides more or less for public financial management by prescribing or dictating that all monies received for and on behalf of government should go into the consolidated fund, and then it requires that you must come out with an appropriation act to take the money, or a supplementary budget to take the money, or an act to allow the use of the money. And then there are other laws, including the Public Financial Management Act, the Public Procurement Act, which are all there to guide how to use public funds. All that notwithstanding, it is also true that people may not comply with these laid down procedures. Hence, the Constitution provides again that the Auditor General, at the end of each financial year, must or shall audit and report on the funding of the various government institutions and report this to Parliament. That notwithstanding, we know that audit is a sampling work. We don't cover everything. Sorry, a cough came in. Can I take a bit of water?
Yes, very much so. You can. I mean, you can have a lot of Lazarus in that area. We surely should be able to get that conversation going with the formal Auditor General of the Republic of Ghana, the man who is believed to have first surcharged people and retrieved money up to some 5.4 billion Ghana cedis, or stopped same, and gotten that money for the Republic of Ghana. Of course, our conversation today is crafted around what's been happening with asset declaration, the laws and the regime which allows those people, those of you who are in public office, senior officers, to declare your assets and your liabilities and interest too, so that we can monitor and ensure there's no conflict of interest, there's no corruption, and its related allied and issues. Yes, I hope you are better now, sir.
Yes, I am.
Brilliant. So you explained to us the public finance management system, how it operates, and how the assets management system helps with that.
Yes. So with all the public financial management laws, the procurement laws, and then the Constitution requires that the Auditor General shall conduct annual audit or audits and report on how people are complying with the rules and using the public funds. It is still correct that even though audits are done on sampling basis, so the Auditor General and his team may not find everything. Therefore, the law also provides another tool. I must say that corruption and abuse of public office are multifaceted. Therefore, the approach to address them or resolve them must equally be multifaceted. So another tool provided by the Constitution under Article 286, as we rightly quoted, is that all public office holders listed in Schedule 5 of that article must declare their assets to the Auditor General before taking office, and after every 4 years, and in case they leave office also, they have to declare their assets. So the declaration is to enable us see how much you were worth when you were coming to office, and how much you were worth when you were leaving office, so that just in case there are some unexplainable wealth, you may be questioned to explain for us to know where it came from.
To the uninitiated, who receives these declarations? So what's the process like? When I come in office, do I go and pick up a form somewhere? Is that an online platform? Is it done in a specific hideous way, or you just have to go through the process? How is it done?
Let me say that the declaration is basically manual.
Okay.
There are asset declaration forms which people are or public office holders are supposed to complete and submit to the Auditor General. Normally, you hear that they say it is sealed in an envelope and given to Auditor General, which is not correct, because I remember as far back as 2017, I stopped that practice. So you bring the completed form together with even an ID with your signature so that we can verify and be sure you are the one who authored the document. And it is only when we have verified that before it is taken from you and maybe sealed in your presence. So at least we see what has been written on the paper. But that is declaration of the paper, not the asset. What is missing in the Ghanaian situation is verifying the assets to be sure that it is in conformity with what has been declared.
Now, before we go ahead, I mean, there are those who have the view that it's only the president, maybe the vice president, and let's say ministers who are supposed to do these declarations. I mean, you have hinted before that it goes deeper and far-reaching than that.
Oh, yes. If you look at the Constitution under Article 286, it lists the president, the vice president, the ministers, members of parliament, the judges of the superior courts, almost all public servants. In fact, I heard a discussion in parliament, I think 2 or 3 days ago, where the majority leader was saying that Yoko is exempted and etc. I said, no. If you look at 550,
yeah,
the last provision is that any person in public office or public service whose remuneration is equal to that of a director in civil service. So once you are in a public office or public institution and your remuneration is equal to or higher than that of a director in civil service, you are equally covered. So they provide this in the written form and submit to the Office of the Auditor General. But let me also add quickly that before leaving office, we have started the process of automating the declaration process, whereby we developed a software by which people could just go online and do the declaration, and then we receive it into our database. I actually called on a team from the World Bank to come and do quality review or quality assurance of what we had delivered, and they actually marked it clean to say that they think it was good to go, but we were not able to operationalize that before I left, and the rest is is the history. I don't know what happened.
So that means that you don't have that website up and running.
No, we did not make it operational before I left. What we did, we succeeded in doing before I left was to test it. In testing it, we asked all the audit service staff who were qualified to declare assets to go online and declare, and they did declare. So we used that as a test, and we were very satisfied with the results before I left office.
So in all fairness, if, let's say, somebody refused to comply with the laws of this country and not decide to submit their assets and declare their liabilities, you would get to know, right?
It's very difficult for the Auditor General to know. I hope you are not talking about me. You are talking about Auditor General.
The audit, forgive me. I mean the Auditor General will get to know, as in the person who is supposed to receive it in that office currently or whichever time will get to know.
Yes. What happens is that most of the times, the people who declare do that on voluntary basis. There is nothing compelling them to do it.
Is that what the law says?
I'm coming. So if you remember, I think in 2020, I started a process whereby in the course of the annual audit, our first position is to find out from the institution if they have declared their assets. So even though the audit was financial audit, before we started the financial audit, I requested the audit teams to find out if they had declared. And if the people had not declared, then we get to know that you have not declared.
Okay, that's an interesting point. But the question I'm asking here is that is it mandatory? Are there punitive
Yes,
measures for people who refuse to actually go through the process, for example?
it is mandatory, but it is very interesting for you to know that, from my opinion, this is an opinion I'm going to prefer here. So forgive me if you don't agree. You can have your own opinion. From my opinion, the laws or the legal framework supporting assets and liabilities declaration has been watered down over the years. If you look at the PNDC law 280, which was passed in 1992, the same year just before the Constitution, that law provides for a custodial sentence up to 2 years or penalties if you don't declare your asset or you violate the declaration of the assets. But that law was repealed by the at 550, which is the one you just referred to as the Public Office Holders Declaration of Assets and Disqualification Act. That act repealed the PNDC law and did not provide any provision. It only provides that non-compliance should be reported to Commissioner for Human Rights and Administrative Justice, and they are supposed to take the appropriate measures. And you and I, we have seen the appropriate measures they have taken over the years when people did not declare, because there were no clear-cut punishments in the law. I think they found it difficult to say go by this or don't go by that. So people were more or less, in my view, left off the hook.
When you were Auditor General of this republic, were government officials complying?
Yes, by and large, they were complying so much, because I hope you know that I meant what many times I said those days. So when I say I am going to come, it means I was going to come. And I issued a circular, and I think even we put it in the press to inform all public office holders who fell under that article to say they have to declare their assets, and the audit, the annual audit was going to start with looking at whether they were well positioned in their office, because the Constitution says you should declare your asset before coming into office. So people were declaring.
For example,
and I must also add that it's not only people who were declaring. The Auditor General also declared to the President. So I also declared to the President twice, when I came to office and when I left office.
Oh, I see. That's interesting.
People ask who audited the auditor. It's not as if the Auditor General is exempted from anything that he does to other people.
Okay, now I get your point. Was the President and the Vice President always complying?
As much as I recall, during the stay when I was in office, the President and the Vice President, they declared their asset, I remember, less than 2 weeks from coming into office.
Oh, okay. How about ministers? Were ministers appointed by the government complying?
Some of them were complying, others were not complying. So I remember I wrote to the office of the President, and there was a lot of rush. People came in to submit their declarations. But whether it was all of them, you know, the ministers are so plenty, together with their deputies, they are so plenty that it's very difficult to know if all of them had complied. So at a point in time, we started an exercise which also got terminated when I left office, to identify specific group of people and see how many of them have complied. So we looked at the judiciary, which told me at the time several of them did not comply. And then we went to Parliament. We saw a lot of them had complied, just few who had not complied. Ministers, almost all of them, just a very few of them who had not complied. So we were looking at sector by sector to see the extent to which people were complying.
You being the man I know, you are not a timoroso. Do you recall any minister who failed to comply with that particular directive?
No, I don't recall. The unfortunate thing is that you see those who have complied, and those who have not complied, it's difficult. But the ministers are so plenty, so many times you don't even know them.
How about a member of parliament? How about a member of parliament?
A member of parliament who didn't comply.
Who didn't comply?
No, I don't remember that. There are few instances that I remember. They referred to us, and I certified that they had not complied. One of them is ADIJ, the Public Procurement Authority Chief Executive. I was written to by the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice, and I certified that he had not complied because it was not in our records. Then also came the time of what do you call it? The chairperson of the Electoral Commission and some of the judges, including the Chief Justice, and we certified the date by which they complied.
Okay, that's interesting because the issue of judges also became very thorny, that many of these, even apex court judges, had not complied. Is this factual?
It's factual. But even Supreme Court judges have not complied.
Interesting. But of course, I mean, then you say...
And interestingly, there was a high court judge in whose court I was seated, and she was talking about you can't appropriate and reprobate, you can't choose between the laws, you must apply all the laws. And I was looking into her face. I said, but you have not complied with the constitutional requirement to declare your assets, and you are telling us we should comply with all the laws. But that's how the world is.
Was it the same court that your contempt issue was brought before? Because it will be clear to me. It will be clear to me, then I'll know the person you are referencing here.
Let's move on.
Oh, no, but I needed clarity on that particular one anyway. But, I mean, I'm bringing out these issues to let people know that because recently we've heard of very popular cases where people who have come out and people who have been in the limelight, whose testaments have been put in the public domain, have been seen not to have complied with something as basic as declaration of assets and liabilities.
True.
Is this that widespread? Is this something that, if you take it generally, for those in public office, is it so neglected that since there's no, almost like compulsory for you to do so, people can get away with it?
Yes. Let me say that, one, because there are no punitive measures, as I've already mentioned that under the PNDC Law 280, there were punitive measures. Currently, there are no defined punitive measures. People can get away with it. And abuses are reported to CHRAJ. And from my point of view, CHRAJ is very lenient whenever those cases come to their notice. Because my view is this. The Constitution says you must do that before taking office.
Yeah.
So if you have not done that, then to me, you are occupying the office unconstitutionally. So the minimum CHRAJ could have just done is that vacate that post because you didn't comply with what the Constitution provides. But, well, they have a different view and they are entitled to their views.
There was a recent case where judges who had not complied, I'm saying that there was a recent case where judges who had not complied were asked by CHRAJ to comply. It's almost like, yes, give them an extension to do so, and that they were urged to go ahead and comply after knowing fully well that they had not complied for a long time.
Exactly. And I don't think that was helpful. That's my opinion anyway. I stand to be corrected.
Now, as the laws currently stand, as the regime currently stands in the Republic of Ghana, does asset declaration regime ensure accountability and prevent amassing wealth?
Let me say, I stated it earlier on that corruption and abuse of office or public office are multifaceted. Therefore, one, two cannot solve all of them. Asset declaration can help us identify unexplainable wealth accumulated during office term, but then it is not comprehensive enough to address all the other issues. Some other mechanisms may have to be added. For instance, there is a need or the urgent need for lifestyle audit. It is necessary we come out with a law which requires Ghanaians to explain where they are getting their money from. There are some people, you will agree with me, that they don't have any well-paid jobs or they have not been in office long enough to accumulate a fraction of what they have. these people may have to account to the nation and explain how they got their money. If these monies were not even earned through corrupt means, at least they might have evaded taxes. So they may have to pay tax. In some jurisdictions, declaration of assets and lifestyle audit has helped in increasing revenue or tax revenue to the government.
Okay.
So if you have so much assets, then where's the income from which you generated or acquired the assets? Did you pay tax? And if you have so much income, did you pay tax on the income? So this can help us to generate revenue. Apart from that, it also helps to identify abuses in the system, and the process of corruption can be captured or collected.
So, for example, if I were to be in office and I'm given a government role, and after my demise, it is discovered in my role that I've actually passed on government property or purportedly done so to other people, how could the asset declaration regime currently constituted prevent or help expose that?
Well, let me say that what somebody would like to write into his will cannot be stopped by the asset declaration regime. But the principle is nemo dat quod non habet. What you don't have, you can't give it to someone. So if you write in your will that you are giving my house to your son, I don't think it is valid. The same way, if you put into your will that you are giving out a government property to someone else, which you have not fully acquired from government, I think is also not valid. But I must also say that all these are happening because we don't comply with the laws that we have made for ourselves.
Okay.
If you look at Section 52 of the Public Financial Management Act, 2016, it makes it very clear that the principal spending officers are supposed to maintain asset registers showing the title, the date of procurement, the cost, the type of title they have, and a whole lot of information. And if these asset registers were properly kept by the various MDAs or government institutions, I am sure the parcels of lands, buildings, and vehicles, etc., that get missing will have at least reduced, if not be eliminated.
Now, there's the point, though. There are those who say that if it's not compulsory for you to, in fairness, do this, or there are no repercussions for not doing same, what is the big deal in declaring and later on leaving office? So if I declare, let's say I had 2 houses, and I left office with 10 of them, what's the big deal?
The big deal is that if we get to know that you had 10 buildings, meanwhile you declared 2, that to me is not the issue. The issue is your explanation of how you got the 10. Because we look at it compared to your income or gifts and etc. that you have received. If you look at Article 286, I think clause 5 of it says that between your first declaration and your subsequent declaration, if the growth or the increase in wealth cannot be explained by your income, gift, inheritance, or whatever it is, then the acquisition can be deemed illegal. So this is where I think that Shraj may have to move a step further to see how these illegal acquisitions can be collected or can be frozen and given to the state, because the person might have used his or her office to acquire these assets.
Why do you think people don't want to declare their assets? That's a question that, I mean, it's on my mind.
Very good reasons and bad reasons.
What are the good reasons first?
Reasons and bad reasons.
Yeah.
One of the good reasons is that some people don't want to show off with their resources. They don't want everybody to know that they are that rich. They just want to be quiet about what they have. So they don't like that publicity where you know that now he's a rich guy and whatever it is. Some also say that it will increase their responsibilities in their society when people get to know, for instance, that your village, people get to know that you have 2 million in your account.
I see.
When you get to the village, there'll be a long queue waiting for you to make sure that they get their share.
But
so
the declaration is different from publication of it, right?
Say it again.
The declaration, is it not different from the publication of it?
Of course, it depends. In our jurisdiction, we are not publishing.
Okay.
In some jurisdictions, they publish. And in fact, if you look at the PNDC law 280, it actually provided that the Auditor General should declare, after declaration, should publish it or publish in the Gazette within 14 days.
Okay.
And we have done away with that law.
We've removed that too.
It's not supposed to be published. So it is only with the Auditor General. But if we limit the declaration to showing it to Auditor General alone, again, the reason why some people may not like to do that is because definitely they have some of their resources which they cannot explain.
Okay.
If they cannot explain it, then why would they document it and give it to the Auditor General? They better don't do and pray that they are lucky and they are never caught.
Can we go after, let's say, properties that the person has left office, and we believe that this one, it was dishonestly or it was acquired through dishonest means, and that you cannot justify the wealth you have amassed within the process? Can we go after that?
Honestly, if I were charged, that's what I have been doing. Anytime you can't justify the asset, I'll go under Article 286, I think clause 5 or 4, I've forgotten the exact clause,
Okay.
which says if you cannot justify it is unconstitutional. So we will declare that that asset is not yours. It should go to the state. Then you go to court and challenge us, and we see how it goes.
Can we do this posthumously when you are no more?
I don't see what stops us from doing that because the person is no more, but the estate is still there. It's just like if you were owing me and, someone was owing me and the person is no more. I can still go after his estate. So I don't see why it should not be done. It is doable.
Now, there's a point, though, about what specifically now we can do to improve our current asset declaration regime. For you, what are the main issues we should tackle immediately?
One of the issues we must tackle immediately is to move it away from the manual to the electronic system, which we began.
Since you could not do it.
I must say, we almost completed. Automating it will make it much, much easier for the Auditor General to be able to manage.
Sorry.
That is one. Secondly, let's bring back the PNDC Law 280, which provides that it must be published. Because if you show your assets to the Auditor General today, and in 4 years' time, you show another to him, the Auditor General will not know all this information. But we are not talking about 2 or 3 or 10 people. The last time we did a calculation, it was more than 40,000 people who were supposed to declare their assets to the Auditor General. How on earth can he know this? So we must have to revisit these laws and bring back the provisions under PNDC Law 280, which requires that it must be published in the Gazette for people to know. And people will tell that, Daniel, before you came to office as Auditor General, you had only 1 bicycle. But by the time you were leaving, you had 2 houses and maybe so many cars. Explain. So the people may have to help the Auditor General unless Auditor General we think can play God. And I don't believe that is good enough. So we have been fighting for that. And let me quickly say that all this that I'm saying, I remember seeing a bill which was drafted or prepared during the tenure of Honorable Gloria Kufu, which went to Parliament. I don't know the state of it now. And several of these issues are addressed in that bill, including the punishment that one should suffer if you fail to declare your assets.
Yet the bill, that's in the last Parliament, so obviously you have to start afresh, right?
I don't know the parliamentary process. I thought Parliament will continue.
I get you. Let me take a break. When I come back from this break, you can take more water. We'll continue this conversation with the former Auditor General of the Republic of Ghana on Ghana's assets regime and other matters. You're welcome back to Our Front. My name is Raymond Alka. My guest tonight on Our Front is a former Auditor General in the Republic of Ghana, Daniel Zhao Domelevo. The conversation has spanned from what our current regime on assets declaration and the liabilities connected to that and how that is doing For example, we've been exploring why it's not functioning the way it's supposed to function. And you heard the revelations about judges, government officials, and other people who are supposed to be declaring their assets and yet are refusing or failing to do so. He's also been talking about the sanctions regime for the current asset declaration. We left off with a conversation specifically dwelling on what can be done to improve the current system. He actually asked us to go back and he referenced a certain new bill which was supposed to improve the current system, which went to the last parliament under Gloria Akufo. That conversation is what we are having with Mr. Daniel Zhao Domelevo. You're welcome back, sir. We left off with an understanding that all of the proposals you're making and perhaps many more were in a draft bill, which may be languishing in the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. We sure should be chasing that particular bill. But a little bit beyond that, because there was a question that came in about where all this fits in when we are serious about the fight against corruption. If we really truly want to reform asset declaration in this country, who should take the lead?
Well, if you want to fight corruption, first, it is the responsibility of all of us Ghanaians. But first and foremost, if you go under the directive principles of state policy, it is very clear that it says the government shall take steps to make corruption, to eradicate corruption and abuse of public office. So it is the executive's responsibility. It lies on the shoulders of my friend Godfred Odami, the Attorney General, to go to Parliament and ensure that if that bill, he still believes in it, he pushes it and gets it passed so that we can have a more effective asset declaration system and also resource the Auditor General's the audit service, the Office of the Auditor General, resource them adequately so that they can do it and do it effectively. But in addition to all this, let me say that we are not going to win the war against corruption just because we have an effective asset declaration system. When the asset declaration system becomes effective, people will start hiding their assets. I hope you will know that people will own assets even in the name of other people or other institutions.
Interesting.
So that is why I said there's the need for lifestyle audit. Somebody is a student, he has never worked, but the type of vehicle he or she drives, you will have to find out how did he get it or she get it. If she has some income, has she paid tax on that income? It will help the country. And another call which I made several years ago, which I will repeat, is that we must look at commercializing the fight against corruption. We should decentralize it, said that private individuals should be licensed or authorized to be able to go to court and prosecute people who are involved in corruption and corruption-related cases. I know the special prosecutor has been set aside for that, but the workload is overwhelming. It's too much. It cannot easily be done. And if we want to avoid some particular people running away with it and others being attacked or held accountable, I think we must change the laws such that nobody will be safe. You can go to court and seek prosecution against me. I can also go to court and do the same to you. And if I win or if you win, the state should be able to compensate you very well. For instance, if 10 million is being stolen and you are able to retrieve it, what would be wrong with we giving you 20%, which is 2 million out of it? And if that is done, I am sure that there are some gentlemen and ladies who will live the rest of their life fighting corruption because they can make a living out of that. That to me is more sustainable than for all of us to hope in one office or one person to fight corruption. Because corruption is very sophisticated, is very multifaceted, and it can overwhelm the one who is fighter. Remember the caution, you fight corruption, corruption will fight you back. So if prosecutors start fighting corruption very well, you will see what will happen. Corruption will fight him back.
It is that part I want to start off from. Currently, how do you assess our fight against corruption under this regime?
It's very difficult for me to give a mark or to say they are doing well or they are not doing too well. because I have not done a complete review.
Yeah.
But there are too many corrupt cases that are going on unattended to, which I think the government can do better than it has done so far.
Okay, specifically which ones?
You have heard them, you know all of them.
Because I wanted you to be specific on the ones you're talking about. The highlighted
No,
ones.
I'm just saying that there are several corruption cases. Even starting from this year up to now, you've heard of scandals over scandals over scandal. There are a lot of them. I don't want to be specific to say that this is the particular one which is disturbing me, but let me say that all corrupt practices are disturbing. They all take resources out of the mouth of the people. They all create bad environment. You see how we are suffering from flooding because somebody has the money and he has gone to build in the waterway and nobody can touch him because he's untouchable. So we need to start fighting corruption correctly, and I think we will make progress.
But you started work on auditing flooding expenditure. You did, right?
We started. I commissioned that audit, but I didn't finish before leaving office. And I think I've seen the report. It has been issued. I cannot speak to it because I didn't author it anyway.
I get you, but you didn't audit the sale or you didn't audit the allocation of the Achimota forest lands. Why? You've done procurement, you've done scholarships, you've done other very interesting areas. Why not the Achimota forest lands?
Let me say that I mentioned earlier on that audit is on sampling basis. It depends upon our risk perception. To be honest with you, until I heard about a week ago something about the Achimota forest, I did not think there was any risk there at all. So our risk profiling may be wrong. We may go to institution A thinking that it is high risk, not knowing B is riskier.
Okay.
So that is what happens. I don't I say why, but it didn't fall in radar.
Now, you are talking about the fight against corruption. You were fighting corruption at a time in tandem with the Office of Special Prosecutor, then with Martin Amidu. There's a new Special Prosecutor in the office. Do you think he can deliver on the job? He started 2 prosecutions this year in a matter of weeks.
Let's allow him some time and see how it goes, because I think he has what it to do the job, but fighting corruption is also not easy. Like I said earlier on, you fight corruption, corruption will fight you back. And let's wait and see when corruption starts fighting him back, whether he can withstand the pressure therein.
Did corruption fight you back?
Several times.
Did you win or lose the fight?
I lost some of them. I think I won some of them. You remember when the office of the Yoko?
Yeah. Well, I seem to have had a frozen screen with that Zoom connection there. So I guess I can hear him now. Mr. Domelevo, I was asking about whether or not you won or lost the fight against corruption in the Republic of Ghana.
I think I won the fight against corruption and also lost some of them. If you remember, I was able to disallow some 5.4 billion, which I think it was a success story. We were also able to recover some of the monies, and those are, to me, success stories. But then corruption also fights you back. You remember how the case which went to the Supreme Court and how it was turned out to proceed on leave, and the next day my successor gave clearance to say that he is satisfied with the work done by Crowe and Associates, and the judgment went left and right. I said, wow, this is very interesting. So that is how corruption works. Again, I also remember very well how the Yoko was unleashed on me, even though a procurement was done and I was not even part of the team. When it came to my notice, I took steps to rectify the mistake that they had done, and I've gotten approval from Ministry of Finance. Yet the officers who were involved in the procurement directly were interrogated, none of them was cautioned. It is when I appeared, I was cautioned, and thanks to my driver before I was bailed. And when I disclosed this to the public, then Yoko now quickly invited my deputy and cautioned her. And I said, look at this, you are just joking. However, that case went to the High Court, and I won against Yoko. The High Court ruled that it was not in their mandate to be doing the procurement investigation that they were doing. I forgot, I will have read the judgment to you. The judgment is quite harsh against them. I hear they say they want to appeal, but until they have appealed, I am the winner.
Now, it's interesting to know that. I mean, do you regret ever becoming Ghana's Auditor General?
Never. I've never regretted it.
You left a better paying job elsewhere to come and do this job. You were...
Yes, I agree. We all have to give back to our society. That better paid job, yes, I left it, but I could not have gotten that better paid job with that what the country Ghana gave to me. So it is time to also, I thought it was time to also give back to my country. Many of my colleagues actually thought I was crazy, but I said, even if I went to serve and I become poorer, if I'm able to do what is expected of me, it will give me much satisfaction than becoming just a standby, looking on unconcerned.
Would you be in the position, for example, to talk about how you felt when you were asked to leave office?
When I was asked to leave office, I felt very good. To me, it was like timely, because to be very honest, I found the audit office environment to be so toxic. It was so toxic that it was not worth working in such an environment. So when they said leave, you notice I was just thankful to God, and I left.
But it's interesting, right? Do you feel that that's how, when you purport or when you decide to fight corruption in Ghana, you get treated? Is there a massive decision by people to hound you out of office?
I think your views on it is as good as mine.
No, but you didn't actually respond to that point. I'm asking whether you feel you were hounded out of office.
What do you think? Share your view with me and let me see if I can confirm.
But me, who am I to share a view when it's the former Auditor General that's actually being asked the question here? Now, there's also another issue, though. Since you've gotten out of office, since you've done other things now, there are those who are of the opinion that it tells us that fighting corruption is never going to be easy, and we are more likely never going to win the fight against corruption. What do you say to those who are currently fighting corruption in the Republic of Ghana?
I'll urge them on. We don't have to give up fighting corruption. I many times draw the analogy of fighting diseases. I think the world is replete with several diseases, and we are dying out of diseases every day. They are fighting, but they have never given up. If the day we give up fighting the disease, I'm sure almost all of us, if not all of us, may also go. The same it is with corruption. If we stop fighting corruption, what corruption will do to us is worse than what we face when we are fighting corruption. So I will urge them on, and I think it is good fighting corruption.
You did talk to me about you submitting your own declaration to the president when you left office finally. Have you had any conversation at all with the executive president of the Republic of Ghana?
On my asset declaration?
No, when you left office. Since you left office, have you had any conversation at all with him?
No. I have not had any conversation with him.
Okay, but because I'm asking this because I wanted to know the relationship you have with key government officials like him.
Me, I have nothing against the government and his appointees. I was just doing my job, and a time came, they said stop and go, and I left. So that is it. There's no bad feeling at all. That's why some people could not understand me when I went to Christ the King to thank God that I've done what I'm supposed to do. So no bad feelings at all. Some people think I should have some ill feelings against the government. I don't.
Do you have any regrets about your stay in office as Auditor General?
No, not at all. No.
And finally, I mean, now, have we settled the matter whether you are Ghanaian or Togolese? That question was still outstanding in my mind. Have we settled the
You
matter?
may ask the president for me. He determines. When the president, please ask him for me.
Oh, but I'm asking you because it is you that was in dispute. I wanted to know how you felt about when your nationality was being questioned, really.
That's why I'm saying that I didn't bring out that assertion. It was brought out by somebody. So go and ask the person whether the person has finally come to a verdict.
Daniel.
And I'm sure if you want to challenge somebody's nationality, there are procedures that you follow. If the person followed it.
I'm told you got some juicy appointments. What do you do now?
That is confidential. I will not disclose that. That is beyond access
declaration.
Please.
I thought you were very transparent and interested in sharing all with the public of this republic.
Yes, I am transparent with what I want to share. But we didn't agree that I'm going to share that information with you yet. So when we agree, I'll share.
I'm grateful you joined me today, and I'll be hopeful to engage you further in the future. But many thanks to you for joining us on this day's edition. Well, folks, that's where we end today's edition of Upfront. Many thanks to you.